beautiful evening down at Abersock Beach. It's almost 10:30 at night, and I just thought I'd come and check in on the boat, which I've left moored up on the beach. I don't normally leave it moored up overnight, so I hope it's still here in the morning. Very sure it will be. There's no wind, super calm, and I'm heading out early for a dive on the islands just out there. Going to go explore those that I haven't done before. Quite looking forward to it. Hopefully there'll be some big bass around, hopefully some pollock, but yeah, looking forward to it. Well, boat's still there, so that's positive. Now I just need to get to it, which I reckon is going to be a bit chilly.
So as I'm coming up on the islands, I can see huge numbers of birds in the water. There are massive breeding colonies out here, and the water was full of juvenile razorbills and young cormorants. The islands off the Clean have had a huge religious significance for hundreds of years, with the more famous Bardsey Island a little bit further down the coast. Here you can see St Tudwells Chapel perched on top of the island, just sitting there isolated all on its own. Now, this is where things start to go a little bit wrong. I've finally got in the water, and the viz is absolutely filthy. It is awful. Then, obviously, to make matters worse, I get joined by some friends. Now, obviously, this is awesome to see, and, you know, it was a great experience, but really, when you're spearfishing, the last thing you want is a seal following you around. This little female, she followed me around for a good 20 minutes, and in the end, I was pretty much ready to give up. Finally some mullet appeared, but no bass. The viz again just pretty miserable. Seals swimming about, and just mullet. I shot a few too many mullet a few years ago, and I've decided to kind of leave them be for a while. I haven't shot any for a couple of years now, I don't think. But the mullet seem to be everywhere, and absolutely no bass to be seen. I tried a few different areas. The water was really shallow, a lot shallower than I'd expected, but it was just mullet. In the end, I decided to have a bit of a zoom around the boat, go to the other island, and just see if I can find some really kind of nice fishable water. The water was a lot deeper than I thought it was, especially off here where it was over 20 metres, which I'm not really comfortable diving in on my own. Finally, I managed to find some water that wasn't quite so scary, and again, you know, I'd been in for a couple of hours and I basically had seen nothing apart from seals and mullet. It was actually turning into a bit of a disappointing day. This is my first drop on this new spot, and it's feeling a lot more fishy. This is the kind of ground I like fishing: deeper, rocky, kelpy, lots of drop-offs, lots of places to hide, and you know, it's not long before I start to see some fish. Some pollock appearing, and there in the distance I see the first bass of the day. Now, I'm the first to admit these are not the biggest fish, and I wasn't in the greatest hurry to shoot one, but I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about it, and this one presents itself for a perfect shot, and I can't really resist. It's probably about half an hour later. I have not seen any more fish. It's a really barren day. And I see these ones from the surface, and I managed to pull off a nice surface shot. I always find surface shots really tricky, so I was pretty pleased with managing to get a nice stone shot on this fish. Again, not huge. There were no fish of size around. In fact, there were no fish at all, really. But I was just glad to be able to take home two nice table-sized fish, and you know, that's my limit for the day. It's nice not to have a bag. I got a bit fed up of the spearfishing for now, and so I thought it was time to head over back towards Pwllheli and dive some of the shallow reefs you can find off there. There's actually some really interesting ground off here. I think it's the Gimlet Shoals or the Pwllheli Shoals, and these are really small shallow reefs that extend for kilometres all around Gimlet and Pwllheli. They're really interesting rock formations with had ledges and cracks and crevices underneath, and generally these areas are completely barren, just gravel, and so all the life congregates around these rocks. I typically will just cruise around with the sounder until I see something interesting and I'll just jump in to have a look. At first I thought that might have been a lobster under there, but it's just a big spider crab and I'm going to come back for him later. But I can spend hours just looking around all these cracks and crevices. It's always worth a look, it's always worth taking the gun with you. I found bass, mullet, even sea trout holed up in holes like this. I've even found cuttlefish and squid in and around here, and it's just great fun just to kind of look around and see what you can see. There are lots of congers, lots of big bull husks, always tons and tons of stuff to see. Now this is me going back for that spider crab. This was a real whopper. When I got this on the scales, it went nearly 6 pounds, and I haven't seen a spider crab this big for a number of years. It was an absolute beast, and it was actually quite a battle to get it out while holding a gun at the same time. After a while, I managed to find some lobsters, which is what I really came for. And this one here proved a little bit tricky, as he actually got wedged in a bit of a hole. He wouldn't let go of the hook either. And then finally, when he did let go, I had to kind of give him a few whacks to get him through this little tiny hole. Now, I think it's one of these things about lobster hunting, about why you need to be so careful, is that, you know, as I'm picking him up, I've got him up to the surface, and actually I realise he's not as big as I thought he was, so I can let him go. I sometimes find it quite hard to judge lobsters, especially when they're in holes, so it's nice to kind of take your time with them, be gentle, and make sure you don't damage them. Now this is a much better lobster, definitely a legal keeping size lobster, and I can't quite remember why I didn't keep it. I think I had some others, and I think maybe the shell on this one might have been a little soft. So I let him go, and something actually really interesting happened here, which I've never seen before. The lobster swims down and falls right into the path of a big spider crab who's making his way across the seabed. And those two spin round and square off for a second before the lobster retreats back. Now, it's time to get these guys cooked down. We're going to have crab and lobster tacos this evening. So first things, just a quick boil just to get the meat out. Really crush down those shells and cook them out as much as possible to get all the flavour out. Get some spices in, really reduce everything down. A bit of mayo and lime in with the crab. And that's it. Get it in your taco, stick in some avo, and you know, this was not the best spearfishing trip I've had all year, but I'd be lying if I said this wasn't the best thing I've eaten.